all fun and games until you're goose stepping down the flatbush. Here on V'ger Please, a heinous trip at Warp 5. My name is Joseph.
Just because you're not playing Command & Conquer Red Alert doesn't mean you can't have Command & Conquer Red Alert bad CGI in your episodes. I'm your co-host, Peter.
Should I replace the theme music for this episode to be the Red
Hell
Alert?
March?
Hell March?
Can we do that, or is that going to be, like, copy infringement?
Play that early, like, PlayStation era music is mostly uncopyrighted. Like, Twisted Metal and all that stuff.
Come on, this...
I don't think Hell March is...
Command & Conquer is EA, right?
It is. Yeah,
well,
you're right.
There's no way you're getting away with EA Microsoft. EA is Microsoft now, because EA was Activision, right?
No, EA is still separate from Microsoft. You're saying
so
of
Activision,
Bethesda.
Microsoft.
Yes.
And Bethesda.
God, that company ate them all.
Are you sure?
You know what? I don't need to think about replacing our theme music, because our theme music is amazing. And it's made by Ian and Sarah, and we haven't shouted them out for a while. If you've been listening to our Picard reviews, you got to hear their Inner Light theme that they did for us. Obviously, their Voyager theme is a banger.
There's a question. With season 3 of Picard, did our Inner Light remix or their Inner Light remix get dethroned as the best thing to come out of Picard?
It's a tough call.
It is a tough one. That's how good it is.
Yeah, that's how good it is. So Ian and Sarah, thank you again. We even know there's a new banger coming for some episodes
secret.
This season. So
hush.
Very secret, but they're the best, and we really appreciate them. Here we are, man. We're finally entering into, unfortunately, the last season of Enterprise.
We, again, put it up against it. What was season 4, episode 1 of Voyager?
I would have been some Scorpion. Yeah. Scorpion part 1, I guess.
Still infancy, man. Next Gen season 4 opened with what?
Best of Both Worlds part 2?
Much better footing than what this thing's coming in on. But again, it feels like the other episodes, the other series are just basically waking up at this point, you know? And this is their final run. And I believe you've said in the past that they knew this was going to be the end. Like, they're even lucky that they got this.
You are correct. There is some fun lore here to unpack before we discuss the first episode. They barely got this season. Okay, they thought they were going to get canceled at the end of season 3. That was part of the reason they baked in a cliffhanger to try and incentivize as hard as possible to get renewed. And this really has to do with the fate of the UPN. Something we actually discussed back when we ripped Voyager for the last time is that Enterprise was from the beginning to the end of its run among the most popular shows on the UPN. But its demo ran too old for them to want to bring it into what eventually replaced the UPN and the WB, which was the CW, a network quite notorious in its heyday for trying to skew towards a much younger demo. So its relative popularity didn't matter because boomers were watching it, or at least, not teenagers. They did get season 4, but it came at a price. The prices were these. First, there is only 22 episodes total. So not 26, 22. We're 4 short. Okay. Second, the budget for these episodes was cut from 1.7 million to 800,000. It was cut in half.
Wow.
Yeah. So they cut the budget in half, and it was put into the Friday night death slot at 8:00. That's where you put shows to die. Okay. Let's remind ourselves, season 3 performed quite well from a ratings perspective. They actually held the audience through the entire show, which is quite impressive. Voyager never really managed that. They kept bleeding, and sometimes they get people back for a short time, and they bleed them off again.
I want to see Jason Alexander.
Precisely. Sometimes you just want to see those low butt shots of 7 of 9. Everyone's got a thing.
Ooh, The Rock? Don't mind if I do.
But season 3 of Enterprise held people's attention.
Why would you... Did anything survive UPN?
Trying to think if anything actually came over from the UPN. Let's see. Let's see what I can find here.
Because if you know that your UPN is doomed and the entire thing, how far out after the end of Enterprise did UPN collapse?
6 UPN's shows survive. Oh, so the network literally collapsed in 2006. This last season was shot and aired from 2004 into 2005.
Okay, so it got a little bit longer. Them putting it in a death slot kind of makes sense, but it's like, if you're going to doom this thing, why even bother putting the money in to make these episodes at all?
Because they were trying to get to enough episodes to be able to syndicate. That's why
they never did, though.
No, they did. They got exactly enough. 22 put them to 100. And that's the number.
That's some fucking black math, man. Jeez.
It is. It is. They gave him just enough. I mean, this is Picard season 3 shit, right? Like, we're going to give you just enough to get the job done and not enough and nothing else. And you've got to use all the parts of the Buffalo to do it. And that's what they left him with. Here's the shows that survived, by the way. The UPN's collapse. America's Next Top Model.
I've watched a season of that, I am willing to admit.
Veronica Mars. Same, by the way, on America's Top Model.
I watched the co-ed one. It was good. Romeo was a real piece of shit.
Veronica Mars. Everybody Hates Chris.
What?
Girlfriends. All of Us. WWE
Girlfriends
SmackDown.
was just called out in the Wikipedia specifically for this episode. Hold on, let me get it up real quick. We're gonna actually jump.
Oh, is there lore on the Wikipedia?
No.
Or is it in the Memory Alpha?
Golden Brooks. That's Memory Alpha. Golden Brooks. Who's Golden Brooks in this?
That's got to be Alicia Travers, because it's a black woman if you're talking about girlfriends.
Yeah.
It is. Boop. Got him.
Golden Brooks was a regular cast member on the UPN comedy series Girlfriends, so they're cross-pollinating.
So not
SmackDown,
much survived. Yeah, SmackDown, a handful of shows that are in the demo that we're talking about, right? You know? It makes sense. Makes sense.
So, okay, so UPN outlasts Star Trek by about a year. Yeah, it's not great math. And this is coming out when? This is coming out.
This episode aired. The first one, Stormfront, aired
2004
on October 8th, 2004. They were informed that they were canceled on February 2nd, 2005, and the last 3 episodes were produced after that. So they knew going into the last 3 episodes they had been canceled, and that is the decision. And they made the decisions they made for those last 3 episodes and what they would be with that in mind. Which, when you watch them, particularly Demons and Terra Prime, it is very clear they're like, well, we know the show's over, so we better wrap it up, right? We better have an ending. And they do a very good job in Terra Prime of giving an ending. And then for some reason they made These Are the Voyages. And then to this day, no one knows why. But Manny Coda was the one left holding this bag, right? He is our proto Terry Metalis. He's got half the money. He's got to make 22 episodes. How am I doing this? The way he does it is lots of 2 and 3 parters. Because what happens when you do that? You reuse sets, you reuse actors.
You hook people into story arcs.
Correct. So if I've got a 3-episode arc, I can use the same sets and same actors and get way more bang for my buck. And I spend my $2.4 million to produce those 3 episodes in a way that's much more cost effective than if it was episode by episode and I had to basically start from scratch each time. Brilliant idea, right? Absolutely brilliant. And that ends up being a formula that works so well here throughout the season. Just these 2 to 3 episode mini arcs are really, that serialized approach is just perfect for Trek in a way that they've never tapped into since, which is, I think, unfortunate. And I think
didn't really do prior. Again, I can't talk to DS9, but It's certainly not anything you saw out of Next Gen.
Nor
And
Voyager, obviously.
Voyager, I mean, maybe some of the Borg stuff. But all too often, when there's good in Trek, we observe, why wasn't there more? There's a lot more story to tell on this. You could have given me just, what was that, Workforce? I mean, Workforce was a 2-parter. It should have been a 3-parter.
Yeah.
Plenty more to explore in there. And you say, listen, I wanted more of this good thing that was 2 episodes, right? And that happened pretty frequently in Voyager. Like, man, you had something good here. You didn't hold on with both hands. Okay, well, what did we do with that budget for one of the other standalone episodes? Oh, you made some complete fucking piece of trash. You made Virtuoso. Fucking great. Wow, I'm so glad we put a budget behind that instead of giving me more space, Mark. I want to talk about, real quick, them sticking them in that Friday death slot.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a bad call out of UPN. Like, yeah, that's a shitty place to put people, but the diehard Trekkers, the Trekkies, right? 2004, TiVo peaked 2006, and that was with 4.36 million users. So the DVR market, I can't find exact numbers for 2004, but the DVR market's getting real at this point.
And the DVD market's getting real too, which is another reason why you're making this show, right? Like, we have not talked about the consumer market for physical media in a while. I think the last time you and I really had a discussion about it was when we talked about Battlestar Galactica and how
Well,
that
we just
show
talked about it, and you as the audience would know that if you weren't cheapskates and you're on our Patreon, because we talked about this heavily for Event Horizon.
is very true. But assuming you're a cheapskate, not on our Patreon, and you don't know
To be
that,
fair, I'm a cheapskate. I don't.
you're not on our Patreon. Yeah, no,
I gotta wait for the free episodes too, guys.
This is when the DVD market has started to really take off. I don't think it's at peak yet. I think peak is 06, but there's a real reason why you're making this show, and it's because you're going to sell it on DVD to the diehard fans at a huge profit at the end of the day, and so it's worth it to do it.
Plus whatever syndication.
Yeah, and then like we said, that 22 episodes puts them right on it.
Things that the current TV markets / movie markets cannot produce cash with anymore. The inclusion of DVD and secondary market sales and what that costs Disney is something I'm happy to talk about for hours. But we got bigger things to talk about right now. We got to talk about Nazis. Unfortunately, Joe, let's go back in time. Not to 46. We're going to October 8th, 2004. Stormfront. This is season 4, episode 1.
I know that Nazis are a worn out bad guy. I know, as we will doubtlessly mention multiple times, that this episode has truly embarrassingly bad CG at every level, except maybe the glamour shots of Enterprise itself, which are still like, it's still beat up and actually still looks pretty good. Before we launch in, and I'm going to give you the floor, I think this episode's awesome. I think this story works fine. I think that this is actually just quite compelling on its own. It's alt history, via science fiction, which is fun. Characters are really well fleshed out, and people are into what they're doing. And Nazis might be a bit old, but you know what? Fine, I can take a Nazi now and then. The floor is yours.
Interesting. The last line of my notes here simply says, "Whack." Before I go into why, the CGI in this, like we pointed out a lot of bad CGI. I put the picture up in the trauma support group of the Panzer tanks in front of this White House that's kind of burned with these awful flags, and it really just struck me like this is literally like Command and Conquer.
Yeah.
Red Alert. Great game, loved it. Not the biggest. I don't know. Maybe I couldn't tell you what the fucking budget was on. There was a lot of bad CGI and whatever, right? Like that's cool. That's not cool for this show, because you're not showing me like Species 8472 or SeaWorld people floating around in pickle juice and wild alien shit that I don't know what it should look like, but I know what a fucking tank looks like, and I know what the White House looked like, and no part of this in any way looks fucking real or feasible at all. So it's interesting. Star Trek, for all the goofy CGI shit it does, a lot of times you can't say, well, I've seen this stuff in real life and I know it doesn't look real. This is the most realist shot that they have probably ever tried to composite together, and it was just so terrible. But in light of the fact that they had their budgets cut in half, I think that is going to be something we need to keep in mind for the rest of season 4, because if you're focused on telling good stories and there's going to be a built-in budget that is required of your show with spaceships flying around doing space battles, you're gonna have to cut corners somewhere. And I think CGI is a fine. If it's between getting shittier actors or having shittier CGI, I'll take the bad CGI.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I felt like the practical stuff of this was fine. It was just the CG that was bad, and it really didn't distract from me. I get you. I kind of knew you weren't gonna like this, but I loved it, and I liked that it started like, okay, we're right back. We're gonna do another fucking previously on Enterprise, right? We just got done with this Xindi shit. It just stopped. They're coming home. They're gonna taking the shuttlecraft. They're going to San Francisco. What the fuck is going on? And a bunch of P-51 Mustangs attacked the shuttle pod. They're like, the fuck is going on? Travis and Trip are like, pretty sure we're getting attacked by flak batteries now. Let's get the fuck back to Enterprise. This is bullshit.
Trip and Mayweather in the shuttle craft, like, I don't care for the story. I think the writing is pretty solid, and I like the thought and consideration that's going into decisions and situations happening. On the surface, you can sit there and say, obviously you guys are in the fucking past. Mustangs are attacking you. There's no radio. There's no EM fucking shit. Like, you should be able to look down and say, hey, we don't see Starfleet headquarters. Like, this is completely wrong. But exactly what you said, like, these guys just repelled the fucking Death Star attack as it was coming in over, Andor, right?
Mm-hmm.
Everybody is burned the fuck out. These guys are fatigued. All they want to do is go home. And also, they're all grieving for the death of their captain. So I think it's pretty legit hall pass to write these guys that, like, sure, they don't have their thinking caps on because everybody is just
They're fucking pissed. They're done with this shit. They thought they finally, like, we put up the biggest W there is.
They watched half their friends fall off a railingless bridge into a bottomless pit.
Makos got killed. Like, come on.
Hayes is dead.
Yeah.
Archer's dead. Everybody had, like, fucking cracks and crevices all over it, which, why don't they have that cracky, falling apart, crumbly skin? Did it take them a long time to get back from wherever they were? Because they went through a boom tube to get back to Earth, right?
Yeah, but whatever. It went away quick. It doesn't matter, right? Like, who wants to put that makeup?
They put a lot of Vaseline on it. We're cool now.
I think we're cutting ahead just a bit here, but the scene where they're, like, discussing that, oh fuck, we're back in time, and, like, T'Pol is trying to be very professional. It's like, do this, check this. This is the next thing, and Trip just loses his shit. He does a very human thing. He's like, I don't want to fucking hear about how the official stance that Vulcans don't think time travel is possible. We're clearly 200 fucking years in the past. Who knows why? God only knows why. Like, but that's obviously the situation we're in right now, and we got to fucking deal with the fact that that's our situation. And T'Pol does not react poorly to him doing that. He just is like, you're right. I have no idea why we're here. They use Mayweather more in this, where he's, like, actively involved in discussions and he's in the plot more, which was nice. I can't believe I just said that, but it's nice. And, like, what if we're here for a reason?
They
like,
bleed him in that scene particularly. Like, maybe we're supposed to be here. I'm like, are they trying to paint Mayweather as, like, the mystical old black man?
Is he the magical Negro? Is that where they're going with this?
Is this Key and Peele talked about this?
I remember this quite specifically.
No, Mayweather's solid through this whole thing because again, he's not really in it heavily, and that's his sweet spot.
There was a moment there near the end where it looks like he wanted to solo all of the Nazis with his ray gun, and Trip's like, no, they're not ready for your power. You can't unleash those obsidian engines of death that you have that some people call arms. I know what you're capable of, Travis. That is a weapon of mass destruction. We must allow them to take us prisoner.
We open with Archer being transported, and for whatever high priority prisoner asset he is, they've just got him in the back of a fucking wagon like it's the intro to Skyrim.
Oh, yeah, it's like, hey, wake up.
He's just bouncing executed. He's just bouncing around back there with a horse thief. They get ambushed by dudes out in the woods. I like that the Nazis are quick to be like, insurgents. I was like, oh, look at you. Very 9/11. Wow.
I mean, there's a certain level of, there's a certain vernacular that was popular at the time. And like everyone playing the Nazis are clearly American actors doing terrible German accents.
Terrible.
Which is juxtaposed by the fact that in the teaser from last season, it was all people speaking German and it was subtitled. And now it's like, listen, hello, Mr. American.
It's budget cuts, right? J. Paul Boehmer. This is the Nazi, I don't know, SS agent that's sitting in the back of the Skyrim wagon with him. That's the same dude from Killing Game, right? The Hirogen. The last time we got to see aliens wearing Nazi outfits.
That's true. That poor man. He just plays Nazis. He plays a Nazi in 0 Hour. He's the same guy. And he's the Nazi from Killing Game Parts 1 and 2. You're absolutely right.
Like at a certain point, you'd be like, listen, guys, I appreciate the work, but you are doing irreparable damage to me in Hollywood right now. Please.
Although time was not terribly kind to him. Because like when he was the Nazi captain that impregnated B'Elanna.
Yeah.
In Killing Game, and he's just much more like Aryan super race in that one. And in this one, he's like clearly a lot fatter. He's like gotten a lot older.
It's okay. We can say that about him because we are older and fatter as well.
And German.
Oh, damn, dude. I forgot he's also Mestral in Carbon Creek. He's one of the 3.
This guy's done some work.
Is he the one that stays back?
No, he's the one that
had a real chip on his shoulder.
You're right. He is the one that stays back. He's the one that's sweet on the bartender.
He is the one that is supposed to be in Detroit. What was that? Oh, how was that terrible episode? I've already blocked it.
Carpenter Street.
Yeah, he should have been in Carpenter Street.
You're absolutely right. He was the one that stayed behind and may or may not have had sex with that bartender.
And he is also the one from Voyager Drone, where he was a ninja turtle. One of the worst.
He gets exited pretty quick in this one. It's perforated by the Resistance. And as we will see, the Resistance is actually a bunch of Italian gangsters from New York, which I really liked. We will get to know them relatively well through this episode in their strange like little resistance cell of these 2 Goombas and the Black Lady. But it's Sal and Carmine, and they are dressed in their giant zoot suit style 40s, 3 pieces, and with their 1911s banging it out with a bunch of Nazis with rifles and submachine guns, and they kind of win every time. It's fucking awesome.
If you say so, Joe.
It reminds me of The Rocketeer. Remember The Rocketeer near the end when all of the...
another terrible movie.
Shut your fucking mouth. Rocketeer is awesome. I think your problem is you hate great movies that happen to have Nazis in them.
So, I don't remember when it happens exactly, but we do get the one part of this episode that I did genuinely enjoy, and it is the return of them Putty Boys.
Indeed. One in particular.
The best one.
Silic with his head, like, when he's like traveling on the top, but with his head turned around the other way, just so he can look maximally fucking creepy for one shot. Like, thanks, appreciate that. But yeah, like Silic, we haven't seen him since the end of season 2. He was not in season 3 at all. And here he is.
Back in the temporal Cold War.
Yeah, like we're back in obviously a temporal Cold War plot. Gotta have Silic if you're there. But his presence essentially goes unexplained in this entire episode. But he is here.
So at this point, the temporal Cold War, as we are to understand it, includes some form of the Federation, the Silic, the Taliban, Suliban,
The Suliban and their shadowy master, who has never been defined.
Then you've got the interphasic sphere builders, kind of, and then these fucking red eye vampire demon dudes.
The Nakrul, who we've never heard of until now.
I don't even think they say the name in this. Do they?
Daniels does when he finally talks to Archer.
Hmm.
So, speaking of them, we actually do finally get a little bit of dialogue and background when two of these guys, they're both in SS uniforms because we want to make sure you know they're the bad guys.
Mm-hmm.
And they're having conversation about how the American prisoner got captured. One of them's like, who cares? It's just an American. The other one's like, yo, he had a super science communicator on him. So clearly he's a temporal agent. You're fucking stupid. Go get him. And he's like, gives his yes, sirs. And the Germans are all around and are unfazed. So clearly whoever these guys are, dressed in their uniforms, are allied with Nazi Germany. And we find out, I think in the next scene, that it's 1944, and the Nazis are in the middle of fighting in North America against a still resisting United States. And there'll actually be a map that shows like the Nazi invasion is basically the northeastern seaboard, and like the battle lines are presently like Ohio, Columbus, all the way down through kind of like Virginia to the sea is kind of the front line. So this is like super duper impossible level Nazi achievements. Like they've captured Moscow, like they've done it all, right? And the clear indication we'll be left with is the reason why is these aliens with some degree of super science have been backing their plays.
They're getting power leveled.
Nothing like your friends with the sweet epics giving you a hand through the dungeons.
So to talk about this more out of order, there will be a scene later on in the White House where the head demon guy,
Vosk.
Is it Vosk or is it Gareth?
Vosk. But it's...
Let me see here. Vosk. Which
Vosk
one's...
is the... Vosk is the leader.
So which one's Grath, the subordinate that fucks up?
That's correct.
Do you know who that is?
No.
Grath, the subordinate who fucks up, is actually the guy who played Tuvix.
Oh my god, you're right!
Mm-hmm.
Oh!
Which is pertinent because we just watched, or at least I just watched, season 4 opener for... Man, wow. Think about that. That's season 4 of Lower Decks focused on Tuvix, and then Tuvix in the season 4 opener for Enterprise. That's some
like moon level. That is some moon landing was faked level conspiracy. By the way, spoiler: if you're a Patreon subscriber, you're gonna get a special Lower Decks review soon because Peter and I finally both watched it. We got things to talk about.
Good things, very
good things.
So yeah, you got Tom Wright playing the subordinate who had a little moopsie and let the Archer get away. The head guy, Vosk, is talking to the head of German forces in North America. And there's a cool dynamic here, right? The aliens are power leveling the Nazis. and they're saying, hey, look, here's some cool weapons tests. We got like fucking XCOM rays. We're blowing up reused stock footage from the Killing Game, which I thought was clever. Did you see
Of
that?
course. Yes.
We need some period specific explosions where there are Nazis, and here's old footage from Voyager where there's Nazis and period specific buildings blowing up. We can build you plasma rifles that just fucking drop shit, but we need to build the batteries, and that's going to require a lot of resources. And the aliens are like basically dangling carrots in front of the Nazis, like, hey, we can give you more sweet fucking weapons. Massive resource drains, as we will come to find out, are not for weapons. They are for selfish reasons. And Nazi leader guy is like, none of the stuff ever substantiates. You show me cool videos, we give you tons of resources, but where is it? And he basically starts to divulge that there are cracks in the Nazis' success up to this point.
Which makes a lot of sense when you consider, like, they've been obviously been giving some assistance to them, but you still have a massive military operation against the entire globe. And even if you've got a half dozen super weapons, that doesn't, you still have got to deal with too much shit for that to always be enough, right?
You have to occupy physical area, and they are in North America. They've taken Berlin. They're heavily invested in Africa, on top of whatever is still going on in Europe. Doesn't seem as though the UK has fallen, because Winston Churchill does have a broadcast that's recorded, but the dude says, it hasn't been said to Hitler himself, but there are many who say that we have spread far too fast and, been reckless in our advances. And I thought that was a really cool dynamic. And then the alien dude's like, well, you wouldn't have gotten where you're at without us. So clearly we're still invested, and now's the wrong time to start severing a good relationship. And the guy's like, well, I didn't say I wanted to sever. He's like, cool, then give me, all of the carbon in Russia, or whatever ridiculous, whatever the Chernobyl level resources that they want. And yeah, I like that. And that's kind of reflected through the rest of the episode too, with just, there's an occupation, but it's not really an effective occupation. There's
Right.
quite a bit of...
The United States has not actually given up. They are still actively fighting. They just, are dealing with people having invaded the country and are have a front line and are trying to beat them, which is stressful. Like, you're trying to occupy territory of people who don't want you there. They're disrupting your supply lines while an active army attempts to destroy it. Like, this is not a situation I want to be in.
I think I'm cold to this episode because we did just do alien Nazis in Killing Fields, but I also just played through the 2 Wolfensteins.
Oh wow, yeah, you're Nazi'd out.
Yeah, I'm alternate history'd out.
I'm fresh on this. I haven't played a Wolfenstein game in a while. I haven't seen a Nazi in some time. So
I highly recommend those 2 Wolfenstein games. That was New Colossus and gosh, I forget what the other one was. Did you play those?
I played the first one.
Second one's super good. And they do some neat stuff with like Game Hub and like a little bit RPG-ish. I recommend it.
I really like the first one because Jimi Hendrix is essentially one of the characters in your resistance hub in that game if you pick the younger guy instead of the older guy at the beginning. And they never tell you it's Jimi Hendrix until the end when he buys the farm, but he does it while doing the Star Spangled Banner on his guitar. Like Jimi Hendrix did. It's well done.
Maybe when I'm un-Nazi'd out, I'll give that another
give that a go. Yeah. We cut back up to Enterprise between these scenes, and we get the kind of the download of like, yo, this is alternate history. This isn't right. This isn't correct. We also get Trip actually actively going to apologize to T'Pol to say, I blew up. I shouldn't have done that. I'm distressed. I was expecting to be on a beach right now. And T'Pol's like, I thought I was going to go home to Vulcan. We're all in the same boat. This
Lucky
is bullshit.
for you, I spent summer vacation coming down off my space crack addiction.
Not entirely, though. Her emotions are, again, like, very here on her face, right? Like, especially when Archer comes back alive. It's all here, and it's very well handled on Jolene Blaylock's part to convey a subtle level of emotion, you know?
What's not subtle is as she's leaving sick bay, or no, I'm sorry, Phlox is trying to bribe Porthos to perk up, and Chicken Liver's not cutting. He's going to go see if Chef's got some.
He's such a sad dog. They're like, Porthos, be sad. And he was the saddest dog I've ever seen.
They
nailed it.
They went extra on the tranquilizers to keep him from barking. They're like, man, he's really mopey. Let's take advantage of this. Phlox goes to leave, and then comes stumbling Time Zucc, fresh out of that first earnings call where he has to divulge how much money Meta has dumped into VR at the cost of Facebook ad revenue, and the shareholders have absolutely taken the piss out of him. He is injured badly. I really enjoy his makeup. Like, this dude just gets time fucked, and Memory Alpha draws a parallel to some damage that Chakotay took when he gets caught between time frames, and it's like, this organ is underdeveloped and like in its infancy stages, but his right butt cheek is 103 years old. He looks gruesome, and some Cronenberg shit. He drops over, and they got to put him on the old iron lung.
Absolutely fantastic makeup job to make him look completely fucked, especially his like face and eyes. Ugh.
If you're gonna put gross special effects shit on Stan Winston's kid,
make it look good.
Think about who was in charge of putting that shit on and be like, wait, your dad's who? Well, listen, man, this was supposed to be 4 hours of makeup. We're doing 8 hours. I'm not having your dad.
We're not
probably my idol seeing me phone it in for this one. This is going to be 3 episodes worth of special effects budget.
Before we find out what's going on with Daniels, we actually cut back to Archer, where he is meeting the guest star from Girlfriends, a character of Alicia Travers, as she will reveal herself. She is a resident of Brooklyn, and she is boys with the mobsters that are in the Resistance. She details later that her husband is on a destroyer in the Pacific, which is another part of the war that isn't going great for the United States. Evidently, we're headed for the full Man in the High Castle ending here, and I liked her. I think she, did the I am the person that has to convey what's happening to Archer role well enough, and like owning the weird alt history nature of it.
Sure. Of course, she also gets saddled with the secondary character class of, and stop me if you've heard this one, this is my home and I'm not leaving. Every time this person is encountered, all I can think of is Data standing at the end of that fucking aquifer and just blowing up those people's water supply and being like, there, now you all die if you stay. Which was one of the most gangster Data moments of all time. Like,
just a classic, like, now you have no choice. Let's go. I solved the problem. I made you leave.
You might think I'm being unkind. Be happy you are not Kivas Faggio, and I did not just murder you with the Veranti disruptor. Move on with your life. So, yeah, we will come to find out that that's they're in New York. Archer is still confused about this entire thing.
They think he's in the Navy because he had a patch for the USS Enterprise, which in this timeline has sunk. And, the plot line there kind of goes the way you expect. The mobsters show up. They're very defensive of Alicia in a brotherly way, and they're suspicious of Archer because they think he's actually a military guy and he won't tell them anything, and they're kind of getting pissed because they're the ones that are fighting the Germans.
They resent the military for having withdrawn,
right? And they're left bag holding, trying to beat the Germans. But they definitely it's everyone's coming together, right? Like, there's even a scene later where the mobsters are like, man, it's like all the Irish, the Italians, the coloreds, the broads, we're all together fighting the Germans.
That's a They're like this gang, that gang, just this entire race of
It's
people.
generally black people. I don't know much about them.
Uh, you know, I want to go back to Mayweather's line. Maybe we're here for a reason. Yes, I know how this works. We all watched a lot of Quantum Leap. You've been flung back at some point in the past to correct a wrong before you can move forward in the future. And unfortunately, Dr. Samuel Beckett's Swiss cheese effect is so bad here. He can't piece together what's going on just yet. He's playing stupid for a couple reasons. Not that they have any sort of strict temporal edict, but he did see one of the alien German soldiers, the SS guy.
And he eventually brings it up to Alicia, like, I need to, you know what, that's my next play. My next play is I need to fucking find this guy. Like, if there's an alien here, clearly they've got fucking answers for me. So we're going to find him.
I like that the aliens are secrets within the Nazi party, that, you know, they're in there and they're wearing uniforms, but it's not common knowledge that there are aliens on Earth. And they have to do some underworld street action to basically set up a meeting and trap one of these guys, which Sal arranges. He's a loan shark, believe it or not. And he agrees to take 20% off of what a guy owes him to arrange a meeting between Archer and one of these demon dudes.
Before that pops off, we do finally get the first discussion with Time Zucc back on Enterprise. So T'Pol tries to talk to him. We do see that Daniels is the reason why Enterprise is in the past. He confirms that. He then says, well, what's happened is that the Cold War has become a hot war. Now we've got active agents who are attempting to disrupt the time-space continuum to try and destroy the other factions. This has created paradoxes and turbulence in the time stream such that past and present no longer align. It's real fucking bad. That's why I have like a baby eye and an old man eye, and I look horrific right now, and I'm gonna like die in a short order. And he's unable to convey what to do except to say stop him to T'Pol, but remains alive for a conversation with Archer later.
In the future, they show you how to save your strength until you want to talk and die in front of the right guy. I like the scene where the mobsters are buddying up a little bit, and not Sal. What's the fat one called?
Carmine.
Carmine's like, here you go. He gives her a big package of hamburger, and we find out like rationing's an issue. But then when like the Nazis come to hassle her,
she's got to
throws
ditch
it in the trash.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, but what about the hamburger, man? Like, that's like such an open, loose thread by the end of the episode. I'm just dying to know, like, who gets all that fucking hamburger meat?
I mean, I think that's there just to show that like Carmine and Sal are genuinely like invested in Alicia's well-being, you know?
Yeah, they're real sweethearts.
So like they're trying to make them as sympathetic as possible, and I think they achieve that. The next move is the next move is Sillick.
Yep.
Sillick, he's finally makes his move. What the fuck he's doing, right? He's on Enterprise, he's cloaked, he's skulking around, and he's not able to say hi, John. You know, like there's no John to say hello to, so he's got to say hi to Trip.
Now, it's been a long season 3. All right, and he is not he's rusty. He did not spend his time off training. He's been eating a lot of hamburgers back in old Detroit.
And meanwhile, Trip has been through it, right? He has had to do a lot. He's had to like break bread with a man who murdered his sister and then watch him get killed anyway, and fucking got all those rashes, and he banged out to Paul, and like there's so much that's happened in his life.
Shoot out Seth MacFarlane. So when Sillick shows up and pulls a gun on him, he's like, get in the shuttle pod. And then they get in an argument over which door. Because, you know, the top. Sillick thinks, you know, okay, it's Trip. It's no big deal. And then Trip shows him like, I know you might think that this side hatch is on like these heavy duty hydraulics and it's probably slow, but what if I told you it's basically a Honda Civic door and I could slam your fucking arm in it real easy, knock that gun out, and put you in a chokehold? When finally, after getting his ass kicked for a few rounds, Silk decides, you know what, I'm going to eat some of this limited special effects budget while I go putty boy on your ass.
And then zaps him, but doesn't take him, and actually like takes him out of the shuttle bay, which was, like a bro move that Trip reflects on later, actually, quite explicitly.
That was real nice of Silk not to depressurize and fucking blast me in the face. So clearly, Silk, reading into this, Silk is opposed, or will, I think, ultimately be opposed to the demon dudes. Looks like he was trying to cooperate with Trip and was going to do one of those, get in the shuttle, we'll talk about it later. And, so like, if you already knocked him out, why wouldn't you just throw him in the shuttle and bring him down with you? As he's flying away, Trip rats him out. T'Pol pops off a few shots with the phase cannons, which you might think would be enough to blow up a rinky-dink shuttle pod, but it's able to limp off, crash land down on the surface.
So they are able to track the shuttle because of the damage to its like plasma engines or something, and leaves a trace that they feel like they can transport an away team down within 3 kilometers of where it is. So ultimately it is Trip and Mayweather again who are going to go down, this time in civilian clothing matching the period, which is kind of like close to 22nd century civilian clothing as we've seen, which is kind of nice.
Listen, if you got fucking cowboy outfits, you sure as fuck got some newsy outfits, right?
Very true. And they go down, they find the shuttle pod kind of close to the like active battle zone, I guess, against American forces. And they are unable to fix it. And we're going to see something we've never seen on Enterprise before. We're going to see a shuttlecraft actually explode.
We're going to see a shuttlecraft that becomes a Nazi clown car.
Very conveniently.
This fucking ridiculous. I haven't seen dummies rush into a potentially lethal confined space like this since Trip did it when they found that future shuttle pod. What was that called?
Oh, yeah, with the TARDIS in it. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, this is kind of established human stupidity as far as Enterprise is concerned, but like, they're like, oh,
it's like literally we're like, oh, look, danger. We should all stand around it.
What is this crash landed thing? I don't know, but do you think we could all fit in there at the same time? Yeah, well, there's not enough. Put your gun over here. Hey, sit on my lap. All right, well, what if you put. Okay, look, wow, they're like cats.
Hans, is it like a Volkswagen?
Fluffing It's like they're cats, and they want to. Oh, there's a box. We must all be in the box. Now that we're in here, now what? Oh, I don't know. I wonder if there's any bombs. There's bombs. They blow up.
There was bombs. That high-pitched whine you heard, that was a bomb. You're all dead now.
Yeah, they sprinkle catnip in there, and they all just fucking pile in and blow them up. I think that's probably the most people I've seen Trip kill in one swoop.
It's true. That was a lot of bodies he piled up, and with no hesitation, because, of course, Nazis don't count. Yeah. No, Nazis never count. Meanwhile, Trip, Sal, Carmine, Alicia, they're confronting the failed alien underling. They get him to step out of the shadows by all pointing their guns at him. Like, they've all got 1911s.
Yeah.
Like, we're just going to shoot you. And sure enough, he's an alien. Archer takes his communicator off of him, starts asking questions. He reveals, like, I know you're from the future. Like, we know your ship's in orbit. We're building a thing. He kind of like gives up a little bit of information. But unfortunately, probably because Sal shot him once in the hand to get him to talk, the alarms are going off, and the Nazis know that there's people doing things and they need to do stormtrooper stuff. And so they leave. But in an absolute pro move, Sal just turns around and was like, are we done with this guy? Blat, 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 let's go.
Well, not quite. That guy, the the demon informant makes the critical mistake of talking shit while everybody's trying to run.
Oh yeah.
You know, we're gonna win. You guys are gonna die. He spills the beans that they are trapped there. They don't want to be there, and they are using the Nazis to gather resources to try to build a way off the planet. He gives them everything they want. They're leaving. He goes, and fuck you, and fuck your mother too. And then they're like, oh well, we're actually not good guys. We're like kind of neutral.
I'm more neutral evil, but like just like being cool right now. So I'm not cool with you. Bang, bang, bang.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's get out of here.
See,
I'm like, I'm
full of holes.
Bye-bye. Like, that's nice. It was good to see. And as they're running, unfortunately, Sal gets gunned down in the street because the Nazis catch up to him.
Mm-hmm.
He just gets machine gunned and falls down out of frame, and he's just done. This apparently ignites in Carmine the fucking eye of the tiger, and he promptly, like, if Enterprise is generally where bad gunfights come from, that memo did not arrive in 1944, because this dude goes boom, 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 boom. Like, these Nazis with submachine guns and rifles are nothing to this Goomba with a pistol. He's just headshot. Like, get this guy onto Enterprise, put him in Reed's spot. He's clearly better.
Well, fuck Reed. I mean, he can take over the Makos.
Like, this dude is,
I don't think he's going to fit that jumpsuit.
Material.
Yeah.
He'll come with a bunch of hamburger for you, and then he'll kill all the Nazis.
This episode did leave me, like, kind of sad again that Hayes is dead, because I would have liked to see him get some of that stun Tonfa action and, like, beam down the super space marines to fuck some yield Nazis up. They get down an alleyway. Carmine's holding them off. Girlfriend is holding them at bay with the pistol, while Archer is fucking with this alien doodad he stole off the other guy. He has no reason to leave this thing as a communicator. It could be a gun, it could be a garage door opener, could be an iPod, could be a grenade, sure, yeah. It could be a thing you click just to sterilize people's nads. Like, who knows? Could be a jaw harp.
Fortunately for him, it is actually a communicator.
Funny that. And just in the nick of time, right when the stormtroopers have him surrounded, and then Tuvix steps up and is like, I got you in check, bitch.
No, it's Vosk. Tuvix died. Tuvix got blasted.
Who? When?
Tuvix was the underling that sucked.
Is he the one that got... No.
Yeah.
What?
Graff?
I don't believe you.
Graff got killed by Sal after Archer interrogated him about Nekrull's presence on Earth's past. That's literally from the Memory Alpha.
So he goes into undercover mode? They killed Tuvix?
Yeah, they killed Tuvix.
I see all these guys look the same. They're not... All right, well, R.I.P. Tuvix squared, I guess. The head bad guy now has them cornered, and Archer's like, fuck you, and he's like, well, fuck you, I'm going to shoot you before you leave. Luckily, you're not Major Hayes, and you still have plot armor, so instead of beaming into Enterprise, spitting up blood and collapsing on the transporter pad, you just get to be a smarmy bitch.
I do like that he was a split second too late to Major Hayes them. You know, like, he didn't start shooting until they had just completely materialized.
Yeah. Then the lady's like, oh my god, thank you so much. And then Archer's like, listen, before you get too excited, you're dead now, kind of. Your soul is gone.
Look, you're like a lot happening right now. I don't want to explain it. It's kind of wild. You're not going to be in the rest of this episode. Yeah. But yeah, I'm from the future. This is a spaceship, whatever.
We're all undead. You're undead now, too. Whatever
Great
made you human is gone.
When Archer goes back up to the bridge, though. Goes up. Hoshi just runs over and hugs him.
Because they're, exes.
Right.
Hoshi, who has nothing to say about maggots ate my brain. Right?
Yeah, she's a fucking trooper. She's just back at work.
Like, she should have, like, 2 Band-Aids on her fucking head.
Like, for a while. And then, I think some really excellent face acting on Jillian Blaylock's part as Archer, like, turns to her. And it's like, I guess I missed a lot. And she is just, like, so happy that he's alive, but she's trying to keep it inside. She's
like, oh my god, I haven't been this happy since the last time I thought you died, but you were still alive.
This happens a lot.
I'm ever since I started smoking space crack, you just die and come back from the dead over and over again.
But T'Pol catches him up. They walk down the sick bay, and that is finally where we get the plot dump from Daniels before he bites it. Who these guys are, what they're the real bad guys of the temporal Cold War. We're in the end game. He slipped our grasp because he had a stealth time machine, which is some tech we even didn't have. So we didn't know where he went, and because we didn't know where he went, he was able to change time in a way that wiped everybody else out. And now he's trying to build a portal back to his time. And if we don't stop him here, which is why I pulled Enterprise back, then we're all fucked. Then the temporal Cold War, the temporal war will have been fought to everyone takes a loss. But if you stop him here, we can prevent the war from ever actually occurring.
Speaking of stealth tech, why didn't Silic take back his old Helix shuttle?
Because they dropped it off back at Earth when they arrived after the Xindi attack. That has to be the answer.
Hey, we're going on a suicide mission. Let me give you our best fucking thing. So you cannot use it when the Xindi show up and kill everybody. So you got to stop them. Cut back down to the surface to head Nazi guy.
Tripp and Mayweather got captured by the rest of the Nazis. You know, he's like, I'm going to interrogate you too. I'm evil.
Brainworms for you guys. We got some of those from the last bad guys. They bought a whole Costco pack of brainworms.
Passed it down to season 4. And then he goes to look over his, super tech thing. Like, yes, I am evil. And that's
yet again continued. More like would be right at home in Command and Conquer Red Alert.
Not an exaggeration in the slightest on your part.
No.
Not in the slightest.
This one looks significant. I've never seen a trans-dimensional time slipstream conduit machine before, so I can't say if that looks real or fake. So that could be bad CG. It looked like good CG to me. I know it certainly looked more real than a tank in front of the White House. But by the end, I mean, we've still got some big open questions that we have to answer here. What about the hamburger?
Hey, listen, I know you weren't the biggest fan because you Nazi'd out, but I'm eager to see this get closed out. We're going to finally have the end of the Xindi arc. We're going to have the final end of the temporal Cold War.
How's the Xindi arc not closed out yet?
Because they're not home.
Listen, this episode needed to be 1 episode long. Exactly. It would have been... Nazi aliens would have been cool as we jump into this weird time thing. Oh my God, this is real zany. We get out of here and then we're back in the future. Like spending time mucking around in the past. Again, I still feel like this is happening too close to Killing Game. Aliens and Nazi outfits. It's too close to Killing Game. When do we get out of this? Is there another full episode or are we back into the future?
Why don't you take a look at next week? And I'll tell you.
I forgot we did that. We've been on vacation so long. How do I do this? All right.
How do you podcast?
Stormfront Part 2. There's Enterprise still all fucked up. It's flying at some more of these...
fighting a Stuka. Yeah, it's a Stuka.
Okay. With the unlikely help of Silic, spoilers, Archer closes in on the temporal operatives whose actions have altered Earth's past and threaten to destroy all of time.
And we didn't note this episode and that we just watched and the next episode are actually both written by Manny Coto, which is going to be a running theme. So
this was Alan Croker too. This next one is going to be who? David Stryden. Yeah, you're not seeing a lot of new names on this direction thing. I wonder how that factors into like budgeting, and if this point they're just like, listen, we're not doing any more. I'll be curious, actually. Do you think we've got any Star Trek Film Academy former actors? Is there Frakes? Is there B'Elanna? Is there any Robert Duncan McNeil?
It's a good question. I'm checking through to see kind of where we're at, and I'm seeing a lot of Livingston, a lot of Vijar. LeVar does make an appearance.
Oh, that'll be a good one, I'm sure.
Actually, is a good one. Michael Grossman. Roxanne does make an appearance. It's another good
Sexy.
one.
Get out the body
It's
grease.
actually a very sexy episode. This is the sexiest episode. I don't know. No, it's probably not.
You're probably wrong.
But yeah, mostly the names you'd expect. There's the regulars from the cast directors that have been doing Enterprise do look like they show up, but mostly it's right back to the names you'd expect. You know, we're at the end of the Berman era. These guys need their work while they can still fucking get it.
It's interesting that, well, it's still early too. You know, it's only season 4, but you're not seeing anybody from the Enterprise cast directing. I wonder if those guys are salty that they never really got a shaker if none of those guys were interested in.
I mean, you know, you never know if they were actually interested or not. I have no idea if someone like, you know,
John Billingsley just thought he could have that dad bod forever and ride that paycheck.
Or if like Connor Trinneer like had that aspiration or not, you know?
Yeah.
But yeah, no crazy new names for the most part in this. It's just a lot of the tired and true ones you'd expect.
Well, they're good ones. You know, none of these guys really ever have I sat there and said, man, this was a terribly directed episode.
All right, man. And thank you, everybody, for listening to us here on V'ger Please. Email us at v'gerplease@gmail.com. Oh, I'm sorry. We forgot a shout out. We forgot it. We're going to put it at the end.
Easter eggs.
Shout out to our Antarctic correspondent who has returned successfully from his
the frozen north,
from his time in McMurdo Station. So if you remember, we remarked on a gentleman who kind of had to drive by a bit to kind of tell us about the fact he was listening to our show with his fellow deployed military members in McMurdo Station in Antarctica, and we thought that was wild that we had a claim to potentially being the most listened to podcast in an entire continent. But he got back to the real world and has been catching up. He actually jumped on our Patreon. He's been chatty in our Facebook group, and sure enough, as you'd expect, people who work in Antarctica tend to be nerds. They like Star Trek. So they would watch Star Trek, and then he would put on our corresponding episode where we would review it and introduced a whole group of people to V'ger Please.
Is the word you want to use.
He subjected them.
Inflicted.
Props, my friend. Props for spreading the gospel of V'ger Please in the frozen wastes and making us possibly the most popular podcast in Antarctica, at least for a short time. We appreciate you. And we want all you to be fans like that guy. Strive for that excellence. We'll see you next week.